assistant, a virtual health assistant, which has come up with the WHO, and you can talk to Sarah. Sarah can talk about so many things. But of late, while I was Googling Sarah, I came to know that there are some mistakes which Sarah is making these days. And who is responsible? I think the lack of training on our part, where we are not able to change the system and we are not able to update the system, whereas we want the system to work for us. So this was just a realization that there is a felt need for this. How do I, the keypad is not functioning. It's not moving. Can I just do this? Oh, okay. It's a headphone. So let us know. Let it be. I will go to the next one. Start. Oh, it's saying starting. Okay, let me go back to the other videos then. So maybe we'll come ahead. We'll go ahead. So what I wanted to bring in here was that it is inevitable, as rightly the title goes, that the educators cannot be sitting behind, and whereas we want the doctors to be actually leading on the AI front. So if the criticality soon creeps in, so if the criticality creeps in, there is a necessity, which is for medicine, as we know, that we want to make our performer to go to the performs, and it has to be taught. So then let's understand, as an educator, this talk is going to be very, very basic, because we have a stalwart after me who's going to do the simulations using haptics. But I'm going to just take you through this journey of basics so that you don't get scared. And actually, this is my journey of these 2-3 years, because now, when you realize there's an importance, you start reading about it. So let's go ahead. So this is a reality, virtuality kind of a spectrum. And to understand AR and VR, all we need to know is where we want our education model to be. So a real environment on one side and an absolute virtual environment on the other side. In the real environment, if we augment it, it's augmented reality. If there is a virtual environment, it is a virtual reality. And if there's more of virtuality, this is a terminology which is not used much, but this can be used later, where there's more of virtuality and less of real, it becomes an augmented virtuality. Now, if we want to compare the two, what is VR and what is AR? These were my doubts initially, so I'm sure some of you will benefit, and that's why these quick slides. So virtual reality, the reality is synthetic, and augmented reality is actually real world. The importance lies here that the virtual reality is computer generated. There is no real world. So you need to have your device, you need to have your software ready to make sure that the reality, the virtual reality which is created, is as good as real. And that is where the devices and the technique and the softwares play an important role. And that is where we should understand what we want. Augmented reality is where the individual sees both real and virtual, and it's called as a composite view, because you're superimposing on one another. Virtual reality has a lot of autonomy. User has controls. AR is interactive. Head and eye tracking is very important. So sensors, the development of sensors and their technology has played an immense role in getting these models ready, because your hand tracking, eye tracking should be captured immediately, put into the algorithm, so that the entire real world, or the real world which we have put into the system, should change according to how we are moving. And AR is registered in 3D, so then it is aligned into the real and the virtual objects in physical world. As an educator, what do I want? I want whether my design should be single user, multiple user, or a social user. Social user is more of society use. You're walking around with your Google glasses, and you can see these days Google has come up with these Google glasses, and you see these ads which keep on popping up. So you see that so-and-so profile, what is happening around, where is the nearest map to something. That is a social user. You might need it for something, but I think today's relevance, do you want a single user or a multiple user interacting? So do you want the teacher also there? Do you want two students doing it? Do you want a team mechanics? That will decide your people. Whether it's an able-bodied or any user, again, whether it's somebody you need to add some more sensors to, or you want somebody to be interacting in a different kind of a space, you have to be ready in that model. What are the tasks? Can I do it only with the tabletop? Something what ENT is already doing. You have a tabletop. I think it's a computer model where you can actually feel the haptics. We have recently got in RR also. We have an endo trainer with haptics. You can do it on a tabletop. Or do you want it standing in a room? So in a room, do you want it with augmented with reality, or do you only want virtuality with yourself with the hand tracking? On the go or in the world. So you can be actually practicing a critical thing actually in a real world with your gadgets on, and that can be assessed. So again, educator will decide this. Where do I want to actually assess? So something very critical in forces, maybe we want it on the go in a simulated environment. Technology driven, and that is one of the reasons why it is very exorbitant. And as it was brought out in the morning, I agree that unless we learn, we will always be afraid of this technology. We will always not know what to do and how to use these things, and we'll get cajoled by the terminologies which are thrown at us and get scared. So you can have specific platforms, or you can have cross platforms. Cross platforms, again, do you want to merge 2-3 scenarios together? Do you want two realities, augmented and virtual, together? Do you want augmentation happening on an actual mannequin or a 3D model? All that depends on what your software is. And what are the devices? So devices started with very tethered devices. A simple Google Cardboard was first of its kind. Then it went to standalone, where we had some which we could add on, like a Oculus. You could add on and make it into a built-in almost. And now we have HoloLens, which is a built-in, totally very sophisticated thing where you don't require anything else, and you can see the environment. Again, the displays also can be two types. It can be a see-through display, or it can be a monitor or a computer-based display. So this we have to be very clear about. Then you decide for your objectives. What aspects of reality you want to touch? So I heard the lady talk about the haptics, that she wanted the student to learn the actual feel of the tissue. So that is where it is very important for her. Whereas for somebody else, it may be the audio file. It may be the taste of flavor. It may be the smell. It may be the identification of motion. Depending on what your objective is, you need to have your sensors in place and the software. What number of environments are you dealing with? Is it physical or virtual? Because if you have a kind of an AR and a VR setting both, it is two environments, because the VR environment is different from the AR environment. So you are actually making a complex scenario. So simple, what number of environments do you want? Number of users, as I already said. What is the level of immersion we want? How much should the person feel like he is actually doing it? What is the level of virtuality, and what is the degree of interaction? All these to keep in mind, simple objectives. So now a word about what will be augmented reality. Augmented reality, always, you get it very simple, it is divided into 3 parts. What is the extent of the world knowledge you want in? Is it a modeled world or an unmodeled world? Where do you want it to happen? What is the reproduction fidelity? So we're going to talk about reproduction fidelity again. But let me just complete. What is the extent of presence you want of the person who's playing it? Do you want it feeling him doing it? Or do you want him seeing it and then coming there? So it's an egocentric or an exocentric presence. So again, entire model will change. And the reproduction fidelity, the extent of world knowledge, and the EPM can all be put up into your paradigm, where you can, again, like we did the feasibility criticality matrix. Similarly, on this, you can plot how much you want what. And then you have to just tell your engineer, I want this. They'll give you the options. Depending on your money, your budget, you can pick up the right option, find which is the technology which matches with it, get the software. And 2 types of software is what you will require. One software for the user and one software for the developer side. And both should be in harmony. The problem is that most of them are driven by technology bosses, I would say, because the softwares have been made that they're compatible with each other. But if you understand these little basics, then you can go for the lower models. You can even think and innovate in your own self how you can do it. Like in a teaching session, if you have a mannequin, you can always have an OSCE with a small virtual environment where actually there's a mannequin on the second table where he actually performs the particular task. You can assess the mannequin, but the actual environment is just giving him an insight, and he can probably be just telling you the history that he got. So actual patient interaction, which you needed a standardized patient, you may not require because that standardized patient is already there. I mean, we'll have to think like this, innovate like this, and we can start with OSCEs in such a way. So this is the reproduction fidelity. So if you see on one side, it's a monoscopic video, and on the other side, it's an absolute 3D visual display of what you want. And this is from a very old article, which still holds true, of Milgram et al. In 1994. If you're interested, you can read this article. It's a real insight into the basic technology. So monoscopic video, simple wireframe is required. So you have to just tell your engineer, I don't want anything fancy because I'm only looking at monoscopic video. If you want a color video, a visible surface imaging, that can be shaded, textured, consistency can be given to make it more real, and depending on how much money you have. You can also have ray tracing, that how the tracing is happening, which becomes a more high definition video. And finally, it can be a high fidelity, 3D animation, total photorealism, hyperrealism space, depending on the budget and the requirement. So this adds to your third limb of the paradigm. So depicting AR and VR in hyperspace, we require reality. And of course, you want reality to make him have an immersive experience. And that is where immersion will play a role, because how much real can you make it? You can't expect a virtual, probably a computer generated, to make it very real. But if you want him to certify in something, or you want him to, something which is very critical, especially for the armed forces, like disaster drills or something like that, which you want to do virtual, it has to be totally as good as real. But if you want him to, before go for disaster drill, at least learn something, a small little model will be good enough. And last is the directness of whether primary world objects are viewed directly or by means of some electronic synthesis process. Now, the changes reduce the complexity. And as I said, from tethered to standalone to built-in, we had various things. How many of us have been using an AR app? Actually, all of you are. And if you just go to your google.com and type any animal, tiger. So there'll be a drop-down menu which will say tiger in 3D. Click tiger in 3D. And you will get a tiger in 3D available to you. And when you put your device to the place where you want to see, that tiger will be sitting there. And how has it happened? Simple depth perception camera. I've just done it. This is at airport. Depth perception camera, software based, using depth perception. Sorry, I think it is not. Very simple. So technology is already there with us. It's just how we use it. And this is just a depth perception camera that you have with the software, which is already there in your mobile, which is taking that 3D and placing it into the space which you are giving it. So you can use this thing. And now imagine if you have a 3D model of something which you want to place, you can do it. It's just a smartphone. The student doesn't have to have any fancy thing. It's just a smartphone that the person requires. So this is one, I have this thing about the companies which will keep on coming up. These are just examples which will crop up. There are many more companies available, but I just thought a kind of a scenario might be, give you more insight. So this is one of the virtual reality clinics which has been created by a clinician. So does this company say. And this is where you can interact, you can do various setting changes, you can do, changes of medicines and various things you can plan. And as an educator, while I was seeing this video, it really requires a clinician to think about where and how I'm going to place my objects. And that is where the role of training a doctor comes in.